Hi everyone, thank you for joining this Xoogler meetup with two awesome co-founders. Actually, they're co-founders of their own companies, not co-founders together. CEO co-founder of Weekend Health, Remy Cossart, and CEO co-founder of MachineFi and Iotex, Roland Chai. I got the chance to get to know them over the many years. Remy for now probably around 15 years. And so I can definitely personally vouch for him and his family. As you can imagine, I'm family friends now with him. And he also had worked at Google. He sold his company onward to Google. And Roland, I can definitely vouch how awesome he is as a Xoogler community member. He's always being able to answer my own questions. He's also available to a lot of Xooglers who ask him Web3 related questions. So definitely ping him wherever you can as well. So these are two founders who are growing their companies extensively in the next few months and are hiring a lot. So want to make sure they are brought in front of you in case, one, you're looking for a job immediately, thinking about the future, or just are trying to get a better sense of what the job market is like. So we're going to get them to talk about themselves, their companies, and we'll get you to ask your questions at the very end. So why don't we just start with Remy? Remy, please tell us a bit about yourself, perhaps your background, how you decided to get into this company, and who Weekend Health is.
Sure. Yeah, happy to get started. My background, I come from a software engineering background. As Chris mentioned, we've known each other for quite some time. We didn't overlap, but we both had the same alma mater. We have a Cornell undergrad. So I've been interested in startups for a long time. Actually, my first exposure to startups was actually ended up interning while I was doing my undergrad for a company called, at the time it was called WickInvest. It later changed its name to SigFig. It was Parker Conrad's first startup. So it was kind of a fun experience. At the time, it was a super small company. We were just something like a dozen people. I was reporting to Parker. Parker then went on and started Zenefit and then Rippling. So I got to see, like, kind of through his eyes, the startup journey. And then started my first company myself, a company called Onward. And then as Chris mentioned, we ended up selling the company to Google. So it was at Google, and that's how I became a Xoogler. I ended up deciding to leave and started Weekend Health. In terms of starting Weekend Health, I've been interested in healthcare for a really long time, mostly for personal reasons. I when I was a kid growing up, struggled with migraines, and then got really interested in understanding how we could make both the process of getting good healthcare more accessible, more affordable, more understandable to the patient, but also fundamentally make the entire system work better for both the patients, but also providers. So that's what we do at Weekend Health. What we provide is we provide healthcare to our patients focused on chronic health conditions. And we're targeting particular metabolic and obesity to start, and then expanding to related health conditions from there. And then, as Chris mentioned, just briefly on the company, we've been around since the summer of 2021, so in about a year and a half now, a little less. So a relatively young company in the grand scheme of things, but growing quite quickly. And from a hiring perspective, we're hiring a number of different roles across engineering, product design, marketing, and a number of operational roles as well. So as a general rule, we have positions open. So with that, I'll hand it back to Chris.
Thank you. Roland, why don't you go ahead and then we can start with more questions.
Sure. I will do a short intro for myself. Definitely, thanks for having me, guys. So my name is Roland Chai. So my background is cryptography and engineering. I did my PhD in Waterloo in Canada. When I doing my PhD, on cryptography, that's kind of like a Bitcoin start. So that's where I got into the space really early. And then after my graduation, I joined Google, stayed here for 5 years. I was on the GFE team, like a giant load balancer team, for 5 years, doing pretty well over there. Then I moved to Uber for another year, basically leading the security, cryptography. Then back in 2017, year end, I actually started the Iotex with 2 other co-founders. We raised like a 30 mils at that time, grew the team to like 40-ish people. And in the past 2 years, we're basically building a lot of things like a layer 1 blockchain down from scratch. And now the team is kind of building the decentralized middleware. It's the Kafka-like stuff, trying to channel a lot of insights in the real world from the device, around people actually to the Web 3D apps. So we raised another 10 mil actually this year. So the team is still growing. So we hire a lot of people. Yeah, that's about me.
Awesome, thank you. So Rob, let's start with you. You mentioned you're hiring a lot of people. On your job description page, most of the jobs are actually remote. Can you share more about your remote policy, where your teams are, and what the distribution is like, so that people who are looking to apply can think about it more?
That's a really good one. Actually, like the IoTeX or MachineFi Labs is like a fully decentralized, like everybody's like working from remote right now. Although there's some talking around having some offices maybe in some major cities next year, but for now it's all fully remote. We do have like at least 60% of the team actually here in United States, but we do have like a 20-ish% of the team on the Europe and another 20 on the Asian side, India, Hong Kong, and Singapore. So yeah, it's like a remote basically creates a lot of headaches for me, right? So I have to work with people from different culture background, different like time zones, speaking even like a different language, but different like that's also good for everybody. So you got kind of you got the chance to work from home, you got the chance to look at your family while work. So yeah, that's our policy.
No, it's perfect for, especially when we are distributing globally online, where you have jobs everywhere. It's fully remote. So Remy, what do you talk more about your policy about working from either one or two locations, or your remote policies?
Sure. Yeah. So we're primarily remote as well, but we're not 100% remote. So we do have an office in San Francisco. I'm actually calling from that office right now. And we have a preference for bringing product engineering and design in person. So we're maybe a little more contrarian than the broader remote view. We find that there is real benefit to having folks in person. So we, in general, we're still open to hiring even product eng and design remote, but we have a preference for folks coming in person in San Francisco.
Great. And in terms of your hiring policy, Remy, can you talk more about, it may be by function, but can you talk generally about what the process could be like for your company?
Yeah, it depends on the function. So for engineering, product, and design, it's typically from an interview flow perspective, we'll do a first round screen, and then there'll typically be a project, and then we'll have folks come into either the office or do a full day worth of remote of interviews, and then from there the offer stage, and then on the operations side, it's just a series of interviews. So typically 3 interviews that cover different topics. But in general, we find that, having a practical component to the interview process is always a helpful gauge of someone's work and what it's like to work with them.
Sure. And Roland, can you share more about MachineFi's and IoTex's interview processes?
Yeah, so definitely like we are very proud to the Google culture. So a lot of like an interview process, or even a lot of process, does look like Google maybe 10 years back, of course, right? So we have, for the tech side, definitely like we have like 2 or 3 rounds of like a problem solving plus system design type of interview. Then we will have like a 1 round of culture fit. For the marketing side, BD side as well, even some kind of like a more non-tech side, we definitely like leave people after the first 1 or 2 kind of culture fit conversation behavior questions. We leave people like a small assignment. Maybe they will spend like 2-3 hours to finish like a tiny BD plan for something specific or marketing plan. And then definitely like we want to have another conversation with the candidate to see like how deep or like how broad this guy can think or plan. Yeah,
Right.
but generally speaking, like our hiring is more like very we intend to hire people with like a really good communication, with really good like a working kind of background.
Great. And Roland, for your cultural fit, you mentioned before, and also previously you did say that you're very international. Can you talk more about the culture of your company? What is it like? How is it different to a lot of companies you've worked at before, and you also worked at Uber, so very strong culture as well, in a different sense than Google. Could you share what the culture of MachineFi is like?
Yeah, so we do. Yeah, we do have like some core values we actually, have, in the past few years. The first one is be bold and be humble. That means like we're in the Web3 crypto space, everything is, changing super fast. We should be brave or bold enough to, trying to bet on the big ideas, all in the big ideas. At the same time, we should be humble, right? We should like accept the failure and try to understand why. So for example, that's our kind of first core value. And of course, there is something like be an owner and move fast, also engaging and growing, or like a best idea win. That's kind of one I steal from Uber's core value at all, very early days. And then something like operational excellence and succeeded as one. So that's kind of our core value.
And before I turn over to Remy for the same question, I'm sure you're getting a lot of questions, Roland, regarding the contagion from FTX and everything. This is really the best time to build and to grow and join a company in the Web3 space. But could you share more with people who are watching this live or watching this later? Does it impact you at all? How should someone think about their career in Web3 moving forward?
Yeah, definitely. Like this is like a huge negativity to the crypto industry as a whole, industry, right? So now people's sentiment is turning into very negative when they're talking about the crypto, and everyone is just scared away from crypto. That definitely creates some problems for us as well. But on the good side, so definitely like there are a lot of talents they are looking for a job. Especially we're getting a lot of candidates from the big layer ones like a Near Foundation, Avalanche, as well as some lot of trading firms like a Genesis, like a FTX even. So who's having a lot of problems. Not a lot of engineers, but we do have a lot of kind of candidates on the marketing BD side, because for them it's really hard to get a job in the traditional space. They still want to stay in the crypto space. That's why we got a lot of good people here.
Great, thanks, Roland. I'm sure we'll dig in deeper in a Q&A session as well. Remy, can you talk more about your culture? And for those who don't know, I haven't looked at the Weekend Health's website. Besides Remy, the co-founder is another Xoogler, Calvin. He had also a Google, started a company, sold that company to eBay, and had started a different company, also sold that company. So Remy, it's clearly a very strong founders that you have as your team. Can you share more about the culture you've set up?
Sure, yeah. So one of our key focuses as a company has been on bringing in a relatively small but high quality team. So that's one of our core approaches to building the team. The broader view of it's better to have a small, high quality, fast moving team, particularly in the early days. And then from a cultural perspective, we have a set of different values, but I think the first and most important one is around being what we call being the doer, asking for editors. The idea being that we want people to be defaulting to action, but we also want people to be really low ego. So our this culture of being very open about ways folks can improve their work, and the goal is to have it so that there's not this sense of I've done my work here and it can't be critiqued or anything like that. So
my final question of both of you before I open up to audience is, how do you really close a candidate sitting on the fence between your company or another? Clearly, you won them in already. Is there something special you try to share about the story, the founder story, about where you're trying to go in the future? Or how do you really convince a candidate to join you?
Remy, you want to go first?
Sure, yeah. For us, I think the vision tends to be very compelling. And candidly, we talk about the progress we've made so far. I think we've demonstrated a track record of growing quickly. And I think the candidates that we're looking for are the sort of people who want to jump in, get their hands dirty, and are excited by the growth. And so it's a combination of you almost want to sell in a way that reinforces the values you want your employees to take when they join the company. So for us, it's talking about, hey, here's the big prize that we're going after, and here's how we've gotten there so far, and here's a journey ahead, and getting people excited about that journey ahead, and then seeing the demonstration that we can execute on that journey.
Yeah, I would say this situation really happens in the current market, but if it does happen, so definitely like a sales upside is really important, as a founder, right? You do a lot of your management sales for sure. And also another secret sauce we have is because we don't have an office, but we do have people attending different like a crypto conference, Web3 conference all the time. So we will invite like the candidate actually to go to like a nearby conference somewhere to try to meet the team, at least a part of the team, and talk in person and see how either any like a chemistry between the candidates and our teams.
It's awesome. So finally, is there anything else you want to share on this recording before we pause and open up to Q&A that isn't recorded? Remy or Roland?
Yeah, I think I'm fine.
No. Yeah, I
Good.
think
Well,
we covered
looks
it.
like we asked the right questions then. Well,
Yeah.
thanks for letting us record this, everyone. And for those who are looking for a role and watching this later on, feel free to reach out to them directly. I'll put it in the YouTube link. Thanks everyone for joining this meeting.